If you have a non-water beverage, a soda, a lemonade, a Whataburger cup that still has ice in it, please take it outside, finish it outside, and then come back in. If you have a non-water beverage.
Friends, good evening. Welcome. We're so pleased to be together tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight. Before we begin, just a couple of words of welcome and gratitude and acknowledgement. It's really wonderful to see so many of our friends and community partners in the sanctuary tonight with whom our congregation and our community shares a number of common values and priorities. It is a pleasure to know that we are sharing this evening with our friends from JFS, with whom we share a commitment to providing access to all to have the opportunity to become a part of Jewish life and the Jewish community regardless of one's level of ability. It is great to know that we're sharing this evening with our friends from Kehillah High to fill this whole sanctuary with high school learners, knowing that we're all united in sharing a priority on continuing Jewish education into high school. And it's especially wonderful that we are sharing tonight with our friends from JNF, whose gratitude, whose generosity, and whose vision has made tonight a possibility. JNF is a wonderful organization with whom we share a vision of an Israel that is sustainable and safe and clean and set up to thrive in the 21st century. We're going to hear a bit more about our featured speaker this evening, but before we do, and before we begin this evening with a brief video presentation, this is my opportunity to remind you to make sure that your cell phones are off, please, so that we can really be one unified community of learners tonight, and to make sure that we don't interrupt our speaker who has come a very long way to share his experience with us tonight. So thank you for being courteous hosts and guests to make sure that our phones are off. And so, without further ado, having concluded those words of gratitude, it is a pleasure for me to invite Jacob up to the bima to tee us up for the beginning of this evening's video presentation. One note about the format of tonight: after our speaker this evening, we will have an opportunity for questions and answers.
During my time on the Shirley Barish Memorial Israel Experience, we went to many exciting and memorable places. Personally, one of the places that impacted me the most was when we visited the Israeli military base and learned about an incredible program called Special Uniform. The Special Uniform program has answered the dreams of many Israeli teens and families who wanted nothing more than to have the opportunity to serve their country in the army and be accepted into Israeli society. One such soldier was Omer Lahat. Please direct your attention to the screen to hear Omer's story.
Omer was born after 31 weeks of pregnancy.
When we already knew that we are entering a very long and difficult journey for the entire life.
He was always integrated with regular children. So when the day came and all his friends around him got the invitation to the army and he didn't, Omer was devastated. It was really a dream that was taken from him. The minute we met Special in Uniforms program, we understood that this is the best option for us. This moment of recruiting the army is the moment when you feel I'm a real Israeli.
אתה מתרגש?
בעננים זה תחושה עילאית.
It was a very emotional moment. He went inside and had his uniforms.
תודה רבה לך.
I think that we didn't cry for many years, but the minute I saw Omer with his uniforms,
וואי, אני לא מאמינה. פשוט מסיך.
I felt suddenly, well, this baby that I held in my arms and didn't believe that he would be able to walk, suddenly becomes a soldier in the Israeli army. It was a dream.
הרגשתי גאווה, הרגשתי אושר, הייתי עם דמעות של אושר בעיניים.
Omer is running there to the people with the balloons. People are proud of him. I'm proud of him. The best moment I had with Omer ever.
The first week of his service was basic training.
זאת חוויה מאוד מאוד מטלטלת.
אבל סך הכל חוויה נעימה.
לא הייתי מגדיר אותה כנעימה, אני בצבא.
When he started to complain, we knew he's a real soldier.
זה שיש לי מגבלה ברגליים ואני בסדר בראש, שום דבר לא יעצור אותי.
It was very hard for Omer, but he fought for it, and it made him very proud. Lately, Omer was invited to participate in a graduation of the new Israeli pilots. Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, asked to meet him and shake his hands. It was very moving.
חיילי חיל האוויר בפרויקט גדולים במדים של עמותת יד לילד המיוחד. תודה רבה לכם.
I looked at the new pilots. I know how hard and difficult their way to get the wings. 30 years ago, I was one of them. And then I look at Omer, and I thought to myself, the way Omer did is remarkable, at least as these boys and girls who gets the wings now. Omer made it. He got his respect and love from his family, from Special in uniform, and I believe from the Israeli society.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Omer.
I believe that Omer and his friends, especially in uniform, is a really win-win situation. It's excellent for them, it's excellent for the army, and is a great example to the other soldiers.
Army is not just power, it's power of will. And these youngsters have so much. Will. After so many years of struggles and hard times, he found a group that could fulfill his dreams.
זה פרויקט מבורך, אני מרגיש שזה בית בשבילי.
כיף לי להיות חייל, ויש את הפינה, פיקד האבא שלי.
גאווה, אני מרגישה מאושרת.
מאוד האחים שלי עשו את זה, מאוד דאגה.
He found his place in the society. He found friends that he enjoys being with them. He found the love of his life. Suddenly, he feels very good with all the things going around his life. For me as a mother, this is the best thing I would expect.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Sage Broadwell. This summer, I had the incredible opportunity of participating in the Shirley Barish Memorial Israel Experience. From Poland to Israel, from the Golan to Eilat, we visited many different places and incredible things. The day we visited the base, one of the soldiers participating in the Special in Uniform program was celebrating her graduation. I'll be honest, I didn't understand a single thing she said. But what didn't need translation for was the big smile on her face and the obvious pride she had in herself. Her joy was infectious. There wasn't a single person in the room that wasn't smiling. Reserve Lieutenant Colonel Tiran Attia is the Director of Special in Uniform, a very unique program operating in partnership with the Jewish National Fund, JNF, to integrate young people with autism and other disabilities into the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, and in turn into Israeli society. During a distinguished 28 years career in the IDF, he was IDF Tank Commander, Commander of IDF's Technology and Logistics Forces Training Program for Army Logistics Cadets. His last position in IDF was as a commander of SAR-L program for Army volunteers, a program responsible for the promotion of Jewish continuity, creating cultural and educational exchanges between the diaspora and Israel, promoting Aliyah. Please help me welcome Reserve Lieutenant Colonel Tiran Attia.
שלום לכולם. שלום לכולם. I'm so glad to see familiar faces, not for the first time. Simon, and I met today new friends, Rabbi Chayun, Stephanie, and all the others. And I can tell you that I'm nervous. Nervous in a good way. And I made a speech which I'm going to not follow, because today I think that I will change from my habit and not speak according to the method that I speak with, and I will speak from my heart. And I will start to pop up a question. What is the impact that I want to do? Mostly for you young teenagers, what is the impact that I want to do? And at the end of my speech, each one of you, I think that will have something to take with him to the impact that he wants to do. So 70 years ago, the state of Israel was established. And at the same day that the UN Council decided that Israel is going to be established, several days after the independence war started. And you know, Israel started that war, continued by war, and 70 years after, we are still having conflicts. And I'm not here to talk about conflicts. And I'm going to take you fast forward to 73. And I know that most of you know the only female prime minister in Israel. Her name is Golda Meir. And she sat in her office during the Yom Kippur War, which was only almost the doom of the third temple. 3,000 casualties in 3 weeks. And why do I tell you about Golda Meir? She was sitting there in her chamber, and the only person that she really thought that can really help was sitting here, not far from here in Washington. And she picked up the phone, and at the other line was Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State of the US, and she almost cried and told him, "Your brother are in a need." And he immediately answered, "First, I'm an American citizen. Second, I'm a US Secretary of State. And thirdly, I'm a Jew." And she immediately answered him, "We are in Israel writing and reading from right to left. So first, you are a Jew." And why do I tell you about Golda Meir? Golda Meir had a Down syndrome grandchild. And back then, at the 70s, people with some kind of disability were sent to institutes, mental health hospitals, monasteries, places which are not being included. And she wrote, not, her biography is dedicating a full chapter to her grandchild, and her vision was that no one will left behind. And when I read that biography, something lit in my life, and I didn't know how to take it, but mysterious the ways of God. And I'm going to take you fast forward to 2006. In 2006, a good friend of mine, which has a huge heart, his name is Ariel Almog, came to my office, and I was in charge of the volunteering program, and asked me, Tiran, I have a strange idea that people with special need will become soldiers in the Israeli army. I was in charge of that branch in the army, and I immediately answered him, Ariel, this is not upon my agenda, it's not going to happen. I thought of myself some kind of almighty. I commanded a battalion, I commanded tanks, I commanded almost 4,000 people were under my command. And I thought that they will be a burden. They will take the attention from the other soldiers, from the commanders, from the daily life of the soldiers. And as I said, mysterious the ways of God. And in 2006, the second Lebanese war started. And I was called to my commander's office, and he ordered me as follows, Tiran, beside being the commander of Sarel, you are going to be commanding convoys of supply to the border. And this is what I did. And at the 8th day of the war, I was leading a convoy with special ammunition, mostly. When we came to Kiryat Shmona up north in the Galilee, I suddenly acknowledged what is the meaning of a hellfire. Explosions all over surrounding me. When I looked at the mirrors, I saw two of my soldiers in flame jumping from the truck, from the semi-trailer. Immediately, I jumped with the extinguisher, and before I hit the ground, an explosion occurred not far from my leading car. I remember the explosion like if it was a minute ago. I remember the heat of that explosion. I was blasted to the ditches, and the seconds after, or a while after, I found myself in a very white room, a lot of bright lights, and I was sure that I'm in God Induction Center. 2 doors, one with flames, one with angels. I hope that the one with the angel will open. But when I came to my senses, I found myself in Bet Cholim Ziv, which is up north, the hospital in Bet Cholim Ziv. You know, the first thing that you are doing after that kind of incidents is to see if you fully function. I tried to move my legs and hands, nothing moved. I was paralyzed, neck down. And at that moment, I lost the will to live. Think how a commander, my height, suddenly lie down without any power. Some kind of say useless, some kind can say a body, a corpse. This is what I felt. And the doctors and the psychiatrists came to talk to me. And they asked me, what is the dearest thing that are close to my heart? I didn't want to tell them because I know what they will do just seconds after, which are my two boys that I haven't seen for almost 3 weeks prior to that incident. So probably they know that I love my family, and that they brought my 2 kids and my wife to the hospital. And there I was, looking at them without any kind of notion. I wanted to embrace them. I wanted to hug my kids, but I couldn't. And it only made me more desperate. So they left, and my decision of ending this misery was much stronger. And I decided not to eat, not to take any kind of medication. If I could move, I would have taken out the tubes that were connected to me. But you know, during war times, a lot of delegations are coming. And one of the group that came, they were in uniform, but you can see that they are not soldiers. When I mean that they are not soldiers, some of them were on wheelchairs. Some of them had some kind of special need. One of them in particular, she looked at me, I looked at her. She had a Down syndrome. She approached my bed, and she asked me in Hebrew, she said, אפשר ללטף לך את היד? Can I pet your hand? And as for me, I was totally without any power to even to respond. But nevertheless, she took her both hands and pressed my left arm very stiff. And I know it was stiff because I looked at my hands and I saw that the grip is strong. And when I looked at her face, I saw that she's making a lot of efforts. A lot of energy was surrounding her. Her face was wrinkled. Her eyes were closed for several, I don't know, seconds, minutes, hours. I cannot differentiate the time. And when she left the grip, after a while, she took 2 steps back and said, "Kol yeh beseder. Everything is going to be all right." And they left. And 3 months after, I was walking on my legs, back commanding my unit. And the only thing that I wanted to do is to pay a thank you to that amazing lady. I did not find her. But nevertheless, I decided that from now on, I am going to be the #1 fan and advocate for people with special need. So we initiate a program for special need within the Army, but we did not make it professional. So later on in 2014, I left the Army in April. And in July, we decided to make a farewell goodbye ceremony for the graduation for those who were in the program. And 3 months of preparation almost stopped due to the Gaza war that started in Israel during the summer. Everybody was urging us to stop the ceremony, but some voice told me, Tiran, you have to do this ceremony. And this is what we did. And you know, when I say mysterious ways of God, during the day that we decided to make that ceremony, another group came during the war. And we made that ceremony, and it was a group of the JNF that came. And back then, I didn't know what is the JNF, what is the meaning of JNF. And at the end of the ceremony, which was very, very emotional, they came to me and said, Tiran, we are from the JNF, we want to help you. And I was sure that, you know, I had a lot of promises, but I know that the JNF are serious. Because I was born in Beersheba, for some of you who don't know where it is, it's down south. And by the JNF, Beersheba, it is what it is today. So I did not come to talk about JNF or myself because I talked enough about myself. I'm going to talk about Special Uniform, the groups that you saw. So in 2014, we started to initiate a very professional initiative, Special in Uniform. Special in Uniform is enabling people to be part of the Israeli army, part of the society in Israel in any way that they can. And our philosophy means focus on their ability because everyone has an ability. Even if it's moderate, maybe it's not sophisticated, but still everyone can do something. So we came with a program, a five-year plan program that enabled people from the Israeli society, disabled or special need, to become part of the Israeli army as a path toward their civilian life afterwards. So we analyze each one's ability at first, trying to enlist them to the army, and then at the end we find jobs for them within the Israeli army. Think of yourself at the age of 16. How many of you are at the age of 16? Past the 16? In Israel, probably you have got a letter from the government that says, prepare yourself. You are going to be part of the Israeli army very soon. People with special need getting the same letter, but in a negative perspective, that says, prepare yourself, you are not going to be. And we decide, Special in Uniform program, to break this equation that says you are not included. And probably you ask, why is the army so important in Israel? The army is a grinder for all the Israeli civilians to go through and pass it and be part of the Israeli society. You know, two kids that your age that are meeting one another in Israel, the first questions that pop up, what are you going to do in the army? And when they graduate and finishing the army, the first question is, what did you do in the army? And those who are giving a negative or unpositive answer to that question are some kind of disincluded. And we want the army to accept all. And we think that everyone has a place within the Israeli army, within the Israeli society. And I asked you at first, do I want to make an impact? Is there anyone in this hall that do not want to make an impact? If I will say raise your hands, I hope that all of you will raise your hand, because I think and I know that all of you want to make an impact. And probably you ask yourself, how do I make an impact? I can give you some ideas, but I think that you are much more clever to think of ideas how to be or how to make an impact. I decided that my impact will be toward people with special needs. This is the impact that I want to do. And I do urge you and ask you to follow my cart, to follow my train, because we are going to a better place. A better place for special need means better place for all of us. for all of us, all of those who are sitting here, and all of us in the world, since, you know, from the perspective of the economy, only in Israel. Israel is losing more than 5 billion shekel, it's almost $2 billion by not hiring people with special need. And probably in the US it's multiplied with so much more. And we are going to save. We are going to say we are dealing with human beings, we are dealing with people that the only thing that they want is to be part of. How many of us want to be this included? Think of the time that you were not invited to a party. Think of the time that someone told you you are not part of. What did you feel? And this is the feeling of a lot of special need. So probably you ask yourself, how much each one costs to be part of the program? And I say that they are not costing nothing. I say that we invest. We invest in each individual in the program between $5,000 to $12,000 in so many ways to see him on uniform. And when the day comes that some of you will be Chayal Boded, a lone soldier in Israel, you will feel the meaning of what is the meaning of wearing the Israeli uniform. It means I am part of something which is much more bigger than me, much more huge than me, the state of Israel. And there is a balance between the state of Israel and the Jews in diaspora. And the balance is very delicate. And I say that we are a big, long chain, big, long, strong chain that made out of units. And we are obliged and we have the duty to strengthen the weakest or the weak unit in that chain. And I want to end with a blessing that says 3 words. Am Yisrael Chai. Just that. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you for listening, and if you have a question, I'm here. Toda rabah.
We have a couple of microphones making their way around the sanctuary, so if you've got a question, please feel free to just raise your hand, and the microphones will make their way to you. While the microphones are going around, maybe I'll start with a question. I'm curious about why there are other ways that young people with special needs could be integrated into society in Israel. You could train them in retail. You could train them to work in a restaurant. You could train them to a million things. Why the Army in particular?
As I said, at the age of 16, each individual in the Israeli state is getting a letter. So if you are not getting the letter, automatically you are disincluded. And we don't want no one to be disincluded. So the idea of getting within the Army, it means I am part of. I am just like anyone else. Meaning, if he's wearing uniform, you are wearing uniform, there is no differentiation whatsoever. The pilot is wearing uniform, the parachuter is wearing uniform, and probably tomorrow after taking those uniform from the laundry, special need kids will wear the same uniform. So we are all equal. We are all equal.
Okay, we have a question over here.
First of all, you could hear a pin drop. We could hear a pin drop when you were giving your speech. You know, the whole idea of Israel integrating people with challenges in the Army is incredible because it really is a coming of age. It's a rite of growing up, to being part of being in the Army. I saw a YouTube video of the group of individuals with autism spectrum disorders that act as reconnaissance for looking at troop movements. And that fascinated me when I saw that several years ago. Could you please speak to that, because it's just a wonderful program, and I can't thank you enough, and your vision. But we have a lot to learn here in this country.
A great question. And I'm going to answer it with a question in the Jewish traditional way. Can someone with special need save life? Good answer or good question? You know what? I want you to ask. Can someone with special needs save life? Ask. You haven't ate enough pizza. Can
someone with special needs save a life?
Good question. This was a good one. And I can tell you 100% positive yes. There is a unit in Israel and the intelligence of autistic kids, brilliant autistic kids, that can analyze maps. They can see things that we cannot. They can see things that we cannot, which means that we are looking at something, we will see something, and when they will look at the same thing, they will see so many much more things. So during Advent Days, during Tzuk Eitan, during the Gaza war, kids with autistic issues, spectrum on the spectrum, were given maps of the Gaza Strip, aerial map of the Gaza Strip. And they want them to differentiate between each hour that was given, those pictures were taken. And you see a process, because the Hamas wanted to out-trick us, and they put tents above Qassam missiles. And in order to trick us, they put 100 of those. So we won't differentiate between those who has Qassam missiles and not. And when those aerial photos were given, you said it's a good question and you are missing the answer. I will wait. You said it's a good question and you are missing the answer. And when those kids, those soldiers were given those aerial maps, they instantly, immediately circled the right tents. They circled the right tents with the Qassam underneath, because they can see things that we cannot. Me and you see small dots. They saw the differentiation between the light, the infra, I don't know. Do not ask me. I cannot. But they saved life. Seconds after, missiles of ours eliminated those missiles that were going to harm us. Thank you for the question. It was a tremendously question. Thank you. Toda rabah.
So how many people have gone through the program, and have you stayed in touch with any of them after their Army service, and what are their lives like afterwards?
You are continuing with the good questions. We started 4 years with 40, and now I'm proud to lead 350 participants. 60 out of them are out there in the Israeli labor market, and I can tell you that I'm not succeeding so well with the Israeli labor market as for now. And we are going to open a branch within the branch that will deal only with assigning special need kids within the Israeli labor market. We thought at first that it's the same to do it like we are doing it within the army. but there is a total different issue to assign people to the Israeli labor market. So 350, and I'm also proud to say that we have more than 200 in our waiting list. So this waiting list will be eliminated, I think, that 2 years from now, since we decided strategically that if we are not ready to accept, we won't accept. So we have a roadmap of a 5-year plan that follows step by step accordingly. Thank you. Yes.
Is this program open to Jewish people outside of the state of Israel?
Another great question. I will stay here. Now we are going to have a kid from Miami that is going to be the first lone soldiers from special need. The only obstacle that we have now, his parents are not together, so we have to convince both of them together that we can do it. As for the mother, she's worried. The father wants him to be a lone soldier. But yes, totally yes. And we are in a process within the Israeli Ministry of Interior and also the Ministry of Defense and also with the Army. It takes another system, no, another way to do it, not according to the Israeli citizens, but it's open. It's open, it's there. I think the first one will be the most challenging, but afterwards it will be like anyone else. Questions from the young? If there are no, okay. So he wanted to ask?
I was just wondering, how do you select who's going to be in the program?
When we started Special in Uniform, we had the no-no policy, which means that we accepted everyone. But we saw that the Army is not charity. So we decided that we are make it very, very roughly, to deal with high functioning, those who can really be inducted to the Army, or we will have some efforts and challenges to induct them to the Army, and also to have some that won't be inducted to the Army or enlisted, but still can wear uniform. So we are dealing with high functioning. We have a team that is being led by me. I'm the head of the committee. 2 social workers, psychologists, and psychiatrists that are deciding according to criteria that the Army is giving us, and those will be part of the Israeli Army. It doesn't mean that those who are low functioning cannot get the opportunity to have a full day, although some of them are not understanding what is the meaning, but it is important for the families. It is important for all of those who are surrounding them. Yes. The only thing that I'm lacking now is the hearing. Sure, absolutely. You saw Omer girlfriend. She is also in the program. We have no differentiation whatsoever. We are totally in favor. In Israel, there are 12 now pilots. 12 pilots in the Israeli Army. One of them is F-16, Mira, which is a tremendous lady. There is also a drone squad commander, Lieutenant Colonel Einat, which in Israel we are not differentiating whatsoever. And as for us, especially in uniform, except with no differentiation whatsoever, and I can tell you that we have 3 Bedouins that are studying with kids from Beersheba that are also coming, And we are very liberal and open in that notion because at the end, if they want to be part of, who am me or us to say to them, you are not part of. And if their fellow members are coming to the army, they are more than welcome, totally more than welcome.
Lieutenant Colonel, I would like to personally thank you. You're being extremely modest, and most of the younger folks that are here are not aware of the tremendous power of this program. And you mentioned it back to 2014. I was hoping tonight that they would also include some of the videos, but for the younger crowd who can easily go online and look at the YouTubes and use the words special in uniform, they will see the most recent video in English, which is only a minute and a half, which you are featured in. But the original one that dates back to 2014, which is about 5 minutes, there's a few variations, and it is in Hebrew with English subtitles. But for those of us that have seen it, the adults in the community, it is extremely moving to see what people with special needs can and do. And one last comment I'd make is that when I sent out an email about it, I probably had the highest response from the Jewish community in Houston looking at the videos or interested in this program. And I quote Rabbi Otzen on all my emails, is that there are only, and this is something for you guys to think about, there are only two types of people: those with special needs and those who will have special needs.
First of all, you can be friends of mine in Facebook, all of those who want. Tiran Attia with the double T, Tiran Attia. The clips or link to the clips are there. Or if you want by your own, Google special uniform video. There are 6 or 7 or even more clips, some of them with subtitles, some of them are speaking English. And I do encourage you to see them because you can see the insight of really special need kids, the joy that you see in their faces, the joy that you see in the parents' faces. It's beyond any explanation or speech that someone can give. Thank you.
I was just wondering how integrated the training is between like those who have special needs and those who don't. Like, do they eat together? Do they sleep in the same rooms? Do they?
Great question. Great question. Our aim is to integrate them not as a group. We call it unit, but a unit is a transition phase toward working individually with the other soldiers. And this is how we really succeed in this program. Since we're starting at the CRC, the Computer Recycle Center, like you saw, Omer, and there we evaluate each one's ability. A lot of interviews by our professionals, a lot of observation that are being made by social workers and psychologists, and all of those we can see, and sometimes it takes a long time. And if we see that he has, for example, an issue of lack of confidence, so he's getting treatment by horses, and all kinds of special lacks that he has, we are giving him some kind of a treatment to make sure that he is going to succeed in the role that is being given. So the aim is for them to be part of, as an individual, within a normal, or what's called normal group. But we start as a unit, as a group, and from there it's like a start, they are getting out, and if they have any kind of problems, they are still can come to the core of the staff. Yes, sir.
「
Yes, sir.
「
Yes, sir.
「
Yes, sir.
「 hospital, military hospital, and somebody else was a normal soldier, not in need, and he worked. We've been there for 30 minutes, and he was just by himself, surrounded by other people. He has photographic memory. I mean, I thought it's a joke. He said, I know people have names, but also the numbers. And he said, oh, 657. And he like 7, 8 people. And anyway, they work together. Very impressive.
You can Google the guy. His name is Roy Schiffman. The guy is brilliant. He knows by heart 10,000 ID numbers of 10 digits, each one of them, and he can combine them to a name. And he is a CP, he is in a wheelchair, and he does a tremendous, tremendous work to the commander of the clinic. Okay, one last question. You want to ask? You want to ask a question? You want to ask a question? No.
Okay. Thank you for coming here first. I was curious if there are similar programs in other armies around the world, or is it special to Israel?
What do you think?
As an Israeli, it's probably that's the only program.
Since we have so much in our plate, we can also deal with special need people within the army. It's only because we have so much in our plate. If we were not busy enough, probably we wouldn't have think of it. No, there is no other. And I appealed, I had 20 years ago in Fort Knox, we had a course with several armies in the world, and we stayed connected, even after 20 years. And I sent them a mail, all of them, from China, Norwegian, France, Canada, New Jersey, which is a state for its own. And all of them replied, we are not in the charity business. And I so think and believe this is not charity. And the ripple effect is huge. We are talking about the individual, we are talking about his family, we are talking about the other soldiers that suddenly thinking less of their own problems because they can differentiate. They can see people that are making so much efforts to come to the army. Who am I to make problems? Who am I to think of my own challenges each morning? And I talked about the family. And the most effective people that are being affected are the commanders. And who are those, the commanders of the Israeli society? Those are the leaders of tomorrow. They will be the CEOs, they will be the senior officer, they will be everything within the Israeli government, side by side with other talented people, but people with special need won't be strange to them. It will be close to them. They will know how to treat, they will know what do you mean when you say special needs someone. So it was a pleasure. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Fayum. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for listening. Toda rabah.
We are so delighted that we had the opportunity to share this evening together. Again, thank you to our friends from Kehila High, for our friends at JFS, and for our wonderful partners at JNF who made this program possible. And also another special thank you to you, Lieutenant Colonel, for all of your work, for showing us not only a new way to be connected with Israel, but I think a new way for us to reinforce our commitment to making sure that our communities are places that are welcoming and hospitable and embracing of all. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being with us. Good evening. Come on. Really great.
Kehila High, if you could report to the multi-purpose room where y'all had dinner. Kehila High, multi-purpose room, the same room where you had dinner. Thanks.